Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from See Cheating Secrets podcast. You will be as much value to others as you have been to yourself. Today in Cheating Secrets podcast, we learn how important it is to love and respect ourselves because if we can't love ourselves, how the heck can we expect others to love us? Value yourself enough to choose to be with someone who wants you as much as you want them. Story. Start. My wife had an online affair, and we started going to marriage counseling. Any advice is appreciated. I, a 24-year-old male, and my wife, a 23-year-old female, have had a rocky relationship for the last 6 months. We got married 2.5 years ago. The marriage counselor was open and honest with me about my mistakes, and although I was a bit hard-headed, I eventually understood my issues and started to make drastic changes. I'm now going to the gym 5 days a week. I've been much more persistent in loving and dating my wife. I've been listening to her instead of trying to answer every question. I have grown closer to God in my faith. Essentially, I have been growing as an individual to be the best version of myself. And for about 3 days, I was feeling great about my efforts and telling her how sorry I was for how I've been. However, despite this, I still noticed her being distant. I thought that she just needed time to see that my efforts in changing were genuine. I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes with her. I stopped being the guy she wanted to be with. But I apologized for this and told her that going forward, a change would happen. My marriage counselor saw this change and was proud of me for making these changes. But also, through this time, I noticed how she had been growing closer to her online friends. She has been receiving Snapchats. She holds the phone away from me when she texts, and she acts cold to me when I try to be intimate. Yesterday, I felt like something still wasn't adding up, that there was this piece of the puzzle that was missing. I loved this woman and had been giving my all, listening in marriage counseling, doing what I needed to do to change, and yet there was no change for her. So, I checked one of her devices, despite knowing already what I would probably find. On the device, everything was revealed. Ever since we started going to counseling, she has been sexting and messaging one of her online friends. Doing it while I'm not home at work, doing it in our bed, doing it all, while I told her my greatest fear was being cheated on, and she told me that I never have to worry about that from her. I was not distraught upon finding this. Instead, I felt vindicated that this relationship was failing not just because of my mistakes, but because she was also failing. I immediately called my marriage counselor, and she was shocked to hear this. She stated that this was unexpected from her and explained how I should handle it. I confronted my wife when she got home from work. I asked her to sit in the living room with my mother and father present to have witnesses. I told her that I knew and asked her what her plan was. For me to find out and then walk? For her to keep this up as I was getting better? She said she didn't have a plan, nor an excuse. She said she feels terrible she did this and said that it was a friendship that got out of hand, that she wanted to stop, but used it as an escape from our marriage problems. She said she was never ready to get married, that she got married because that's what she was expected to do, having a sheltered religious upbringing. She revealed these deeper issues to me, but again said she should have been more honest with me and feels nothing but regret and shame for her actions. That night, we slept in separate beds for the first time in a long time. Just the night before, she told me how much she loved me and was proud of me for getting better. This whole time it was a lie. She was seeking pleasure from another man. I went for a walk last night and prayed my heart out. I went back to the room and told her I forgive her, but I'm still hurt. I told her I still want this to work, but things would need to be different. My marriage counselor stated that we would be having an emergency meeting on Monday. In the meeting, a plan will be put in place on how to proceed. In my heart, I still love her, and I want to make this work and rebuild. However, if she is hesitant or says she needs more time to figure herself out, then it will be over. My marriage counselor said I need to value myself because I deserve to be loved and chased after by someone who will put in 100%, just like me, in making this work. To be honest, though, I already kind of know that her heart probably isn't in it to make it work. But until I ask her directly and get a straight answer, I will not know. What hurts the most is that she was never honest about how she felt, in the heat of his young and vigorous body against mine. But then, like lightning, reality hit me. I pulled away abruptly, panting. "No, Jason, this is wrong. We can't," I said, my voice trembling. "Why not?" he asked, his eyes full of confusion and desire. "I know you feel it too, Emily. You can't deny it. I'm a married woman, Jason, and you're my best friend's son. This can't happen," I replied, although every fiber of my being screamed otherwise. I hurried out of the basement, leaving Jason alone and confused. I locked myself in my room, my heart racing. What had I done? How had I allowed things to go so far? That night, as I lay in bed next to Mark, who had returned late from his trip, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the kiss with Jason, the feeling of his lips, the warmth of his body. I felt guilty, scared, but also alive, more alive than I had felt in years. The following days were an uncomfortable dance of furtive glances and tense conversations. Jason and I tried to act normally in front of Mark, but the atmosphere in the house had become electric. Every accidental brush, every moment alone was charged with barely contained sexual tension. One afternoon, while Mark was at work, Jason found me in the kitchen. He approached me with determination. "Emily, we can't go on like this," he said in a low voice. "I know you're married. I know this is complicated, but what I feel for you is real. I can't just ignore it." I sighed, leaning on the counter. "Jason, I feel something too, but this can't be. There's too much at stake." He moved closer until I could feel the heat of his body. "What if we found a way? What if we could be together without anyone getting hurt?" His words were tempting, dangerously tempting. Part of me wanted to give in, wanted to throw myself into his arms and forget about everything else, but the rational part of my mind kept fighting. "I don't know how we could do that, Jason," I replied sadly. "Let me show you," he whispered, and before I could protest, his lips were on mine again. This time, I didn't have the strength to resist. I surrendered to the kiss, allowing my hands to explore his young, firm body. We kissed with unbridled passion, as if the world was about to end at any moment. When we finally separated, panting, I knew I had crossed a point of no return. I could no longer deny what I felt for Jason, nor what he felt for me. But I also couldn't ignore the complications this would bring to our lives. "We have to be careful," I finally said. "If we're going to do this, no one can know. No one." Jason nodded solemnly. "I understand. It'll be our secret." And so began our clandestine affair. Over the next few weeks, Jason and I managed to find moments alone, stealing kisses and caresses when Mark wasn't home. Each encounter was a mix of unbridled passion and suffocating guilt. I felt like a teenager again, experiencing the thrill of a forbidden love, the adrenaline of almost being caught, the complicit glances during family dinners, and the coded text messages. All of it added an excitement to my life that I hadn't felt in years. But as time passed, the guilt began to weigh more heavily. Every time Mark kissed me or told me he loved me, I felt as if I was being stabbed in the heart. Thinking about Jessica and how she would react if she ever discovered what was happening between her son and me filled me with paralyzing terror. One night, while Jason and I were in the guest room, taking advantage of Mark being out with colleagues, we heard the sound of the front door opening. Panic invaded us. Jason quickly hid in the closet while I tried to fix my clothes and hair. "Emily, are you upstairs?" Mark's voice echoed from below. "Yes, honey, I'm changing the sheets in the guest room," I replied, praying that my voice sounded normal. Mark came up the stairs and entered the room. He looked at me curiously. "Are you okay? You seem flustered." "I'm fine," I replied quickly. "Just a bit tired. I wasn't expecting you back so soon." He came closer and kissed me softly. I could smell the slight scent of alcohol on his breath. The meeting ended earlier than expected. "Where's Jason?" My heart raced. He, went out with some friends he met at the university." Mark nodded, apparently satisfied with the explanation. "Well, since we're alone," he said with a suggestive smile, moving closer to me. I felt a wave of panic. Jason was hidden in the closet just a few feet away. I couldn't let this happen here now. "Oh, honey, I'm sorry," I said, faking a yawn. "I'm really exhausted. How about we go to sleep?" Mark looked disappointed, but nodded understandingly. "Sure, it's been a long day for everyone." We left the room and headed to our bedroom. As I lay down next to my husband, my mind couldn't stop thinking about Jason trapped in that closet, waiting for the safe moment to come out, and kept enabling me when she didn't raise concerns over mistakes I was making, telling me everything was all right, telling me she was still in love with me. How much of that was a lie, I wonder? For 4 years, I gave this woman my heart. I chased after her, and we had the fairy tale wedding and courtship. All of that was a lie. I told her I don't feel comfortable with her in the house, especially when she made a comment last night asking if she could trust me. She stated she could stay at a friend's place for the time being. She packed her things and left quickly. She said she regretted that things went this far, but I don't want to hear it. She has no idea how much she has scarred me. She has no idea how much the images of the things she has done in our bed for this other guy have haunted me, how much she has hurt me. If she was truly unhappy, She should have just told me and left like an adult, not played me around as if things could potentially work out. She said it best. She has acted like an immature girl when I deserve a mature woman. I wish her the best. She has deep issues that need to be resolved so she can be happy again with herself. She is terrified of how she will break the news to her parents about what she did to me. I'm sure, though, she will bend the truth and lie to some extent about what happened. But I don't care what her family or friends think. I deleted my social media and blocked numbers, so those jackasses will never contact me if they think this is all somehow my fault. I will not hear any of it. I am done. I'm checked out completely. We don't have any major assets, and she already has her own separate bank account. This process of separation will be very easy. I have spoken to my father, who has gone through this before, and he is walking me through it, so I'm in good hands and have a great support group. I cried one final time last night, not for losing her, but for the immense feeling of shame that was hovering over my head this year to finally be gone. It still comes in waves, but it gets easier when I remember the things she did, how she was wayward, how she folded at the first test of our relationship. I recorded our final conversation for my own protection. She stated clearly in the video that this was on her, and this was mostly her fault that this thing failed. Before anyone asks, it was legal for me to do this. I checked the laws of my state. I told her that these past 4 years have been the best times of my life with her, but our time has passed. This next week, I'll be clearing up the room and putting her things in boxes, looking forward to having more space. I'm not looking for advice from you guys, really just wanted to update on what happened. Slowly but surely, I'm getting better already and will continue to improve myself for the woman that truly deserves and desires me. Some tips on how to move forward would be great. Honestly, though, I'm feeling kind of proud of how I handled things. I never lashed out or got overly emotional. Thank you. Reaction? I think her saying she wasn't ready for marriage is just a way of her saying she wasn't ready to deal with whatever issues she has. She's projecting those issues into the marriage. You're not the problem here. She went into the marriage unhealed and with too much baggage that ended up self-imploding. Update, I just don't get the why. I don't get why she would do what she did. She had a safe house, a loving husband changing for the better, an in-law family that loved her, and a mother-in-law that she felt she could be more honest with than her own, and she threw it all away like that. 2 years of marriage, and she just imploded it without trying to at least reconcile. It's just insane to me. She now has to live on her own, doesn't have the support of my family anymore, and doesn't have the security of a loving husband who would have died for her. And she's still telling people it was a mutual decision, as if I didn't cry my eyes out to her, asking her not to throw it all away. I just don't understand how a woman could be so heartless when it was only 2 weeks ago when she said she loved me with her whole heart. She'll never know how much she has actually hurt another human being with her actions to just abandon someone so easily. I'm having a rough night at the moment. Comments. We've got a quick opinion from Flared Bag. I'm terribly sorry that this is happening to you. Some things are sometimes not meant to be. This is the time to focus on yourself and to look after yourself. That is your first priority. Whether she keeps on this path or realizes that she made a mistake is not your concern anymore. You're going through a very traumatic experience and should look after the number one person in your life, and that is you. Good luck, and may you heal quickly from this. The OP replies, dramatic is very much the word that hits the nail on the head. I feel like at times I'm worthless, that I was never good enough for her anyway, that I'm never going to find love again. It was only a few weeks ago when we were still doing okay, when she held me at night and told me everything was going to be okay. It's just left me feeling so crappy. The amount of manipulation she was doing to me, this experience has made me feel some of the loneliest and worst nights of my life, that she would choose someone else and just walk away like an immature child. Reaction. Honestly, OP, it's natural to ask why, but I don't think it's something you're ever going to understand. It's absolutely gut-wrenching, but we can't get caught in the grasp of what-ifs or I wasn't good enough because that's simply not the case. You said it yourself. She was the immature girl. You need a woman. Don't put your focus on what she no longer has. Screw her. Updates. Update for everyone that told me it would get easier with time. You're absolutely right. She rarely crosses my mind now, and my therapy sessions have helped me tremendously. I've been losing a ton of weight and have a personal trainer helping me with that. The thing that has helped me the most is realizing that she has thrown away a really good man. People around me tell me that they are shocked she would do this to me, someone who everyone knows is genuinely a good dude who cares for others. I'm so glad she did what she did, so I can see her for who she truly is. I wish her the best, but I'm a superstar catch in this world, and she threw that away for someone who knowingly wrecked a family. Her loss. Update. I've been doing amazing, no joke. I've been using the past 2 months to completely turn my life around after being betrayed. I've been going to the gym every single day for general cardio, while meeting up with an old high school fitness coach 3 days a week to do intense lifting. My body has gotten so much slimmer, no six-pack yet, but everyone around me tells me I look great. I've also changed my hairstyle from a generic Afro classic man look to a more in-style cornrows look. I look like a completely different person. It's still me, but I feel like I am different, like I've come out of the other side of a devastating loss, but have gained so much more self-worth. Even my coworker just today mentioned how I look really smooth. I got some pictures taken of myself by my friend who has a nice camera, and they came out really amazing. Other than looks, I've also been a lot more social. I joined a weekly young adults church night event. I joined my church's worship team, and have continued to make friends wherever I go just being myself. I even hit it off with one of the girls at the young adults night. She seemed to dig me, which was cool and a nice confidence boost. The new job I started has been really awesome, and I am even planning to become an investor with them, as the owner, who I'm good friends with, said it's a good opportunity at my age. I bought a couple of great books and have been reading them to help me mentally and financially. I'm not sure how my ex has been. My mom mentioned how she seems to be really tapped into social media, basically pretending life is perfect and whatnot, even posting photos of our cat who she doesn't even have right now since he lives with me. I don't care though. She can live happily in her fake online relationship while I'm out there crushing life. Everyone told me it would get better with time, and it truly does. I can't wait to see where I'll be in another 2 months. Update. A really sweet woman offered me her number at the gym today. A really cool thing just happened at the gym. This one lady who complimented me on my hair the other day came up to me and offered me her number. She isn't really my type, plus I'm not sure if I'm ready for another relationship yet, so I thanked her, but said that I was currently going through something, and I wasn't ready to put myself out there yet. She understood, and said she was sorry to hear that. She even said that I'm a cutie, and what's not to like about me. I told her I would see her around and thanked her for the compliment and offer. Going through what I went through really messed up my confidence and self-worth. So this happening was such a shot of confidence for me. She is very pretty herself, but again, not really my type. And I'd rather be honest with her about my status of not wanting a relationship right now. This has made my whole week, really. I haven't received a compliment from another woman since the beginning of the year when my wife became really cold towards me. Edit. Since a lot of people keep mentioning it about maybe changing my type, I want to also make it clear that this woman was also a bit older than me, like she was probably mid-30s. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but my personal limit is 29 and below. I felt as if I had been punched in the stomach. What do you mean? Jason sighed, running a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration. Us, it's not real, is it? I mean, I feel something for you, of course I do. But is it enough to justify all the damage we've caused? His words resonated within me, giving voice to the doubts I'd been having myself. Was this love or just a fantasy, an escape from the monotony of my life? I don't know, Jason, I answered honestly. I thought it was, but now I'm not sure of anything. We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of our actions and their consequences weighing on us. I think I need to leave, Jason finally said. Not just this house, but Chicago. Maybe it's better if I take a gap year, travel a bit, clear my mind. I felt a pang of pain at the idea of him leaving, but I knew he was right. We needed space, time to think, to heal. I understand, I said softly. I think it's best for everyone. Jason nodded, and for a moment, I saw the insecure young man who had arrived at my door just a few weeks ago. I'm sorry, Emily, for everything. I'm sorry too, Jason, I replied, feeling tears forming in my eyes again. We hugged briefly, an embrace laden with regret and farewell. Then I watched him walk away, his figure disappearing into the darkness of the night. I stood there on the porch of a house that no longer felt like home, contemplating the ruins of the life I had built. I had lost so much, and now I was alone to face the consequences of my actions. The following months were a period of introspection and rebuilding. Mark and I divorced, a painful but necessary process. Jessica eventually agreed to speak to me again, although our relationship never returned to what it once was. Jason, true to his word, went traveling, occasionally sending postcards from far-off places. Little by little, I began to rebuild my life. I immersed myself in my work, seeking redemption in the pages of the books I edited. I started therapy, facing the demons that had led me to make such destructive decisions. A year after that fateful summer, I received a letter from Jason. He was in Europe, studying architecture and discovering himself. He thanked me for what we had lived through, but also confirmed what we had both suspected. What we had wasn't love, but a fantasy, an escape. Reading his words, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief because I could finally close that chapter of my life, and sadness for everything I had lost in the process. But I also felt hope. Hope because, despite my mistakes, I had survived. I had learned. I had grown. And now, I had the opportunity to build a new life, one based on honesty and integrity. As I looked out the window of my new apartment, watching the sun set over the Chicago skyline, I realized that this was my second chance. A chance to be better, to love better, to live better. And this time, I wouldn't waste it.